Hello and welcome back for part 2 in this video. The first being the making of the card boxes and the second the envelopes for the cards. And in this video I'm going to be showing you how I make envelopes for 3 various size cards. The same as we made for the boxes. The mini Slimline, the 5x5 and the 5x7. Again, this is a very quick and easy way to make these envelopes, especially for these two, because you don't need any special tools. You don't even need a scoreboard. If you're ready to learn how to make your own envelopes, then stick with me and I'll show you how. Start with envelopes for these two size cards, the 5x7 and the 5x5. And the process is exactly the same. And the tool that you need is a ruler. What you need to do is to measure these cards from corner to corner on the diagonal and take note of what that measurement is. In this case, this is 7 inches. So for my paper, I need to cut it at 8 by 8 because I want 7 inches, the diagonal width there, plus 1 inch. The same with the 5x7. Measure from corner to corner, and it's 8.5. So that means that this piece needs to be 9.5 by 9.5. And I'll bring in my papers that I've got here for these two. So this is the 9.5 for my 5x7 and the 8x8 for my 5x5 card. So this will work with any square or rectangle card such as the 5x7. You want to place your paper on an angle, so in a diamond orientation like that. And then just place your card in the middle, and you can pretty much just eyeball it to see that you've got pretty much an even width. You can take your ruler, of course, and come in for a more precise measurement. You need to scoot it over any, and then you're going to fold up one of the sides like that, either the top or the bottom. Then you'll fold your top, the opposite side, down. And if it's fairly flat like this one, you can go ahead and burnish that. You'll fold in your sides. And when you do that, you can actually sort of take your nail and pinch that in. And when I open it, you're going to see that you've got series of triangles here at these points. You just snip those away. I can see here that my measurements are off a little bit because that's a bit wider there. So I might want to move that over just a tiny bit. Pinch those corners in just a little. And same over here, like that. Now go back in, take your triangles out, around those if you wanted to. Just going to leave them as they are. Then we're ready to add our adhesive. So, I'm going to place my card back in here, pull these flaps over, and if you need to trim any, you can do that now. I could trim a little bit of this off here, and here. And then this is going to fold up. So let's try it this way. It might work. Yeah, that might work better that way. So there. Yes. I'm going to have it that way instead. So all you need to do is put your adhesive down. And your adhesive is only going to go from that as well. On these tabs here, on this bit here, and then that's going to fold up into the back. So you don't want it to stray outside of this area. So keep your adhesive within that triangle and not too far down. Just run a bead of glue around there, or you could use double-sided tape, of course, and then come up, a little bit of a press, and there's your card. And you can also, if you like, round the corner of the, round this flap, if you like. You can even round these just a bit as well. And then apply your tape and tape your card shut. And there is your 5x5 envelope. And although I have a supply of 5x7 envelopes, it's always nice to be able to make my own. And this is how you do it. First of all, you're going to measure from one corner to the other on a diagonal, and that's 8.5 inches. And then you need to add 1 inch to your final measurement. So 9.5 by 9.5, and I've got my paper already cut. Turn the paper so that now it sits as a diamond. Then place your card in the center, trying to keep the edges as evenly spaced as possible. If I do that in centimeters, it's a little easier. So it's about 1.7. It's not too bad, I suppose. Maybe move over that way just a little. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I'm going to start by folding up the bottom edge. Next, the other corner, like so. You can turn it and do the same on the bottom. You want to pinch that in a bit. Hold it up. And then again on the side. And down like that. Now open it up, and you have your triangles on those corners, which you now need to just snip off like that. Just makes it all look a bit neater and less bulk when you go to put it together. Now, you put that back inside, or just go ahead and fill your envelope. And you can tidy up in a little bit here where it wasn't quite even. So just take that little bit off there. You can take a tiny bit here as well. And then apply your adhesive here on this flap. You can use double-sided tape or red liner tape, or in my case, glue. Here's your envelope, and if you like, you can take your corner rounder and round that off. And if I bring in the one that I bought, you'll see that they really are exactly alike, except that this one is made from a much heavier weight paper, so there's no chance you're going to even be able to see through that. So that's very nice as well. For the mini Slimline, it's done a little differently, and we'll have to use some scoring techniques in this particular envelope. And here's what I have come up with for mine. I want to be able to use the full width of my A4 paper, and it is 8 1/4. If you have letter size, you can use the full width of your paper as well, and then I only have to make one cut, and that is at the 8 1/4 mark, and yours will be the same. This is so I don't have to go into my 12 by 12 pieces, because just for the sake of that extra ½ inch, I would have to go to a larger paper. So this means I can take full advantage of all the A4 papers which I have in more in abundance than I do in the 12 by 12. Now what the difference is that if you have the A4 size, or you've cut your paper to 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 if you want to, then you will score at 7/8 of an inch on this side and come in 7/8 of an inch on this side. So that is what's going to be the difference. You're going to have a 1 inch score line if you have the letter size. 1 inch on this side, 1 inch on this side. And what that is doing is, we're making these glue tabs here. These are 1 inch glue tabs that I have here. And you'll see that when you close it up, you have these little bits, these little flaps that are still here. Now these will be squared off. I've just gone in and rounded them just to help with the aesthetics of the envelope. And that is all the difference. So there'll be a 7/8 inch difference between the A4 and the letter size. So let's put it in the scoreboard, and I'll go through the other measurements with you. Now it doesn't matter where I start on my A4 unless I want my paper to be in a certain orientation. So if I have a pattern that I want to be sure that it, when you have the flap here at the top, that it is actually oriented that way. But if it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't really matter where you start. So I'm going to put that into my scoreboard. And the first thing I need to do is to make the score lines for the side glue tabs. And for mine, it's going to be 7/8. If you have the letter, it's going to be 1 inch. So that means on this side that I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 7 3/8, or I can simply just turn it round and do that 7/8 of an inch score mark again. So when you get to those sort of odd measurements, it's sometimes a little bit easier to remember exactly, because you have the same measurement on both the right and the left side. So if you have the 8.5, yours are going to be at 1 and at 7.5. Or, like I said, you could just turn it round and score it again. Now, as I said, if it matters to you how your envelope turns out as far as if you have any pattern in it, then you want to make sure that you start with that flap turned to the left here, because our first score mark is going to be 2 inches. Right? And our second is going to be 5.5. So as you see, you have one end that is smaller than the other. Okay, so this is your bottom. This is the inside of the envelope where your card is going to fit, and then this is your flap where you're going to actually secure the envelope. Now there is a little bit of cutting to do, not much. And that is, you want to remove, and I'll just mark it here for you, keeping in mind this is your flap, this is your bottom. Okay. So you want to remove all 4 of these rectangles. Do that. Make sure I cut out that score line as well. Like that. And then I can also at the same time go back in and form a little tab there. Do the same here. I can start with that angle cut here up to that score line, and then remove this rectangle and do the very same thing on the other side. So I can come in here and make my angle cut, and that way I'm making that tab shape at the same time. And here. That is all the cuttings that you'll need. Now if you want to round the corners or the flaps pieces here, it's best to do that now. I can come in here with my corner rounder, or you could do this by hand, or you could even draw around a lid or a small dish, something like that, just to give the shape that you desire. So just making a small little round corner there, and I can do the same here. It probably would be best to do that before you actually cut the tabs, but it really is not a big deal. So it will look like this. And if you want to, you can still go in there and just round them with your scissors, like so. And the same on this side. Bit awkward. And there you have your little envelope. So this is your flap. It's going to come over like so. You're going to put your glue here, making sure that you don't go beyond that point and actually go onto the envelope itself. But you can see there pretty much how far in you need to go. And as I said, you could use your double-sided tape and you'll be able to see pretty easily where that is going. So I'm just going to take that out and then bring in my card and place it in the envelope. And this folds over, and there we have it. I'll recap this two-part video with a quick review of what we've done. First of all, we learned how to make lidded boxes for our cards, such as the mini Slimline, the 5x5, and the 5x7. We also learned that we could make any size box by simply taking the measurements of the item which we want to make a box for, and put in the width and the length as well as the depth, and then that would determine the size of cardstock that we needed for our box. And then also remembering that our lid must be larger than our base in order for it to fit over the top of the base. And a simple way to make sure that you do that correctly is to take 1/16 of an inch off both the width and the length of your final measurement. A really handy thing to have, and as I said in the video, a good idea would be to laminate something like this, and then you have it handy for whenever you need it. Next, we went on to learn how to make envelopes for the cards, whether we wanted to just make our own or we didn't have the correct size of envelope for our card. We started with the 5x7, and the way to do that was to take a measurement from one corner to the other on the diagonal, and then to add 1 inch to that final measurement. So in the case of this 5x7, it was 8.5, so we cut our paper at 9.5 by 9.5. We did the same with our 5x5, measuring from corner to corner. And then we took our paper, placed it on an angle like a diamond, and then placed our card in the middle of that diamond and folded up the sides and then glued them down. Finally, for our mini Slimline, we had a different type of envelope. This is a landscape envelope, so that we could have something like that. And all we did was start with the full width of either an A4 or a sheet of letter size paper, then cutting it to 8 1/4 inches. And we have also found that these fit perfectly, and there's plenty of room in here as well to coordinate this one quite nicely for our 5x5, and then we have our Slimline, our mini Slimline. So, there you are. I hope you learned something very practical for your craft room and for your crafting needs. I think this is a brilliant idea for storage as well as for perhaps gifting or selling your cards. Thank you for watching this 2-part video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're subscribed to the channel, and if not, I invite you to do so today. Please be sure to share with your friends, and I wish you all a very good day. Please stay safe and crafty hugs. Bye.